Hi, welcome back to my channel. This is Psychic Medium Raymond Guzman, and today I'm going to be doing a psychic reading on mediumship reading on Trayvon Martin. This was a case a few years ago that happened in Florida, I believe, in which this young man was murdered by George Zimmerman. And so there's been a lot of questions about, what really went on. I'm going to give you what I see from a psychic perspective that actually went on. When I tune into Trayvon Martin's soul, you can tell just by looking here at the photograph. He was a good kid. He was a very good kid who had a good soul. Not someone that's a troublemaker. You can tell when you look into the eyes, and I've said this on the Lisa Lopez from TLC Left Eye video. If you look into a person's eyes in any photograph, the eyes are the windows to the soul, and they will show you exactly what kind of energy that person has and what kind of vibes you get. And I get that Trayvon was a good young boy. He was a good young man, and he didn't have problems with anyone. I feel like he didn't mind his business, but when someone is being attacked by someone much older, like an adult, because Trayvon was a teenager at the time, and you feel threatened in that kind of situation, your first impulse is to react as self-defense, is to protect yourself, And so I get that immediately, that is what happened in this whole case. Trayvon was protecting himself. He felt threatened. I do feel like George Zimmerman definitely did pull that trigger and shot him when he wasn't supposed to. There was a call to the police, and the police told him to stay in the vehicle, but he didn't listen. So, and I'm going to get into George Zimmerman in a minute. But I do feel like, Trayvon definitely was just in the neighborhood, minding his business on his phone. And I just feel like, he was being stalked. This George Zimmerman, the visions that I get is that he was following him. He was following him and didn't want him in the neighborhood for whatever reason. And I will get into that in just a minute, but there was a sense of panic is what I'm getting from Trayvon's soul. A sense of panic and acting real fast, the adrenaline, and it's just disheartening to know that he left behind his family and that he could have had, a bright future ahead. Because this young man was very intelligent. I get that from his soul. And his parents did raise him to have morals, to have respect for people. So I definitely get that this was something, that happened where it wasn't, that he provoked George in any kind of way. I feel it was the opposite, that George was provoking him, and it led to this. I do feel like from Trayvon's souls that once he passed, there was this moment of loneliness, this transition period. I do feel like he was stuck here earthbound for a while. As in most cases when someone is murdered, they do stay here for a while sometimes, and then they transition on. But I do get that all behind this case, all behind it, what Spirit is showing me, what Trayvon is communicating, is that there was money involved. People paid off dirty money. Mind you that I believe one of George Zimmerman's a bail bond was like 1 million, but he was ordered to pay 10% of that, I believe, which was 100,000. So this man had money. Somehow there was money involved. I don't know, exactly where, but there was definitely some people involved in this case that kind of knew that George Zimmerman was guilty, and they were paid off, or they were, somehow they just decided to like step down from the case. Because ideally the vision that I get and what I'm getting from Trayvon's soul is that George Zimmerman would have been found guilty and would have been prosecuted in a court of law for everything. That was the way, the divine order, the way that things were supposed to go, for justice to be served and carried out here in the physical world. But it wasn't, because there was money involved, and there was something going on with Trayvon, I'm not Trayvon, but with George Zimmerman, which I'll get into a moment, with his love life at the time that this was all going on. But Trayvon is okay. I definitely get that from his soul. He has since transitioned off. He is very thankful for the support of everyone in the African American community and just everybody in general. You know, the Black movement, um, the movement that has been going on for quite some time. All Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. Um, he is just very proud of everyone that has uh, tried to get justice for him served. And for his mom and dad, the messages that he has for them is that he loves them very much, and that he says he doesn't want them to feel responsible because he was out there at that time, or feel like they didn't get justice for him here in the physical world, because he knows that his mom, especially, she wanted justice done for the crime that had taken place. But it's okay. He says he's not upset about it, because sooner or later that justice will be served, and that's what I'm getting from his soul. He's talking about how yeah, George Zimmerman was harassing him. There was a lot of profanity being exchanged between George and towards Trayvon. He was being provoked in many ways. He was being harassed. That's the word that comes out, harassed. And I do feel like George was in an altered state as well. Um, Not good. It was just not a good situation at all. Um, he's saying to me, Trayvon is saying that George had this complexity where he didn't have any control over his life at all with people. He didn't have power, and that's something that he always wanted to. And he found this opportunity to, someone young like Trayvon, he saw it, and he kind of saw that he had some kind of control, being that he was the neighborhood watch or whatever. He had some kind of control, or um, power over a situation. And it sometimes when people who have never had power before are given any kind of ounce of power, it goes to their head immediately, and it's like ego takes over. Um, and that's kind of what happened in this situation. I don't know if his mom has moved over, but or his family, Trayvon's family, has moved since all of this. But I feel like there was a move somehow. There was something. I do feel like there was a move. I don't know if they're still living in the same state or the same city, but there's definitely some kind of move that he's showing me from all of this. So I'm going to get into the next slide here. Now this is George Zimmerman, and these are the photos of the injuries, quote unquote, that he received. Um, Supposedly he acted in self-defense, and this is why he shot Trayvon. But okay, but look at the eyes here. If you look at Trayvon's eyes in the first slide, and then you look at George Zimmerman's eyes, the man here in this slide has a lot of anger. He has a lot of dark energy, very, very, very dark energy. Wasn't in a good place. Now, did he have injuries? Yes. Was it self-defense what he did? No, because you have to understand, first of all, the police told him to stay in the vehicle, but he disobeyed the police. So, like, why wouldn't he be charged at all, even for not listening to the police? I understand that they have that stand your ground rights or whatever in Florida, but whatever the case is, the police dispatcher, they told him to stay in the vehicle, and he didn't. And I feel like there was people in this case that lied, that testified on behalf of George Zimmerman, or that lied. There was a lot of lies here. But I definitely get that he was in a bad place. Spirit says that there was something going on in his marriage where he was having an affair, or he had cheated on his wife before. there was something going on, and it led to, he wasn't in a good place mentally. I don't feel like in his life he ever really felt like he accomplished. He wasn't where he wanted to be. So there's a lot of different things. I do feel like he doesn't, there's a lot of questions whether he was a racist. I can't sit here and say that here for my protection, my safety, but I definitely feel that there was, like, he never really had any kind of friends that were really African American. So, and that's where I'll leave it here. But I definitely get that he had a lot of anger. There was a lot of, like I said, just not good energy at all. I feel like he was, he's had issues before with violence and anger. And these are things that, that should have been examined more closely, like what do you call that? A therapist or a psychiatrist rather, that would have done an assessment on him. But I don't feel like none of that was really done. And if it was all swept under the rug. It was all twisted and paid off. People were paid off. But like I said, and in all of this, I feel like Trayvon acted in self-defense. I feel like George got confrontational in his face and started pulling on him on his jacket, not his jacket, but on his sleeve, on his sleeve, and started pushing him. And of course, what is Trayvon going to do? He's going to defend himself and then try to run away. But I feel like this got out of hand in a split second. And what I'm getting here from Spirit is that George Zimmerman is never going to have a good life here in the physical world. He's always going to be haunted by Trayvon's, Trayvon's image. It's always going to haunt him. I do feel like he is never going to really have a good relationship. His relationships are always going to suffer. And I do feel like eventually justice is going to be carried out by someone. I do feel like there's danger surrounding George Zimmerman. It may not be right now, but there's definitely danger I get around him from Spirit that they are showing me. So someone somewhere is definitely going to take things into their own hands and not follow the law process, because he has a lot of people that hate him, honestly, and that really feel like he should have been held accountable. And again, this is not coming from me. This is coming from Spirit here. I do feel like he is aware of this, and his soul does feel threatened in many ways, and he does feel like there is going to be something happening, sooner or later, where because people haven't forgotten. Like you can see in these YouTube channels that in my YouTube channel, for example, a lot of people have requested this video. There's people that will never forget that, mothers and fathers and peers of Trayvon, that will never forget the atrocity, the crime that was committed and that was carried out against this young man. So I do get that justice is going to be served. That is what I get. And it's kind of weird because in most cases when there are criminals that are still alive and that they've been exonerated or they've been, set free, you don't typically hear that, or it's not usually, you don't usually see that there's going to be justice done. But what I do get is there will be justice done, and somewhere down the line, George is going to slip up and he's going to have some of his anger again. And he's going to have legal issues. There's going to be further legal issues before, but I do feel like there's danger for him. I'm not saying that he is going to be, taken out by someone, but there's danger. That's all I can say. There is danger, and he really does need to be careful, because I do feel like there's people, like I said, that are out there that are willing and will take action into their own hands, because they do feel like this whole case, he should have been prosecuted and there should have been justice served on behalf of this young man that was murdered, because it was murder. I do feel like it was very much murder. It wasn't an act of self-defense as it was portrayed. It was murder, because when you have someone that doesn't have a weapon versus someone that does have a weapon, who's the greater threat? and someone that's a teenager versus someone that is an older guy. You know, it's just very, very sad. But if you look in his eyes, I don't feel like he has any remorse, even though he apologized to Trayvon Martin's family. I just feel like that was a farce in many ways. And it maybe in some ways, you know, he does realize the impact that he's done. But like I said, as time goes by, he's never going to have peace. He did create some bad karma for himself. And you know, I feel like even when he passes on to the next life, he's going to live out bad karma. You know, there's going to be a certain place where he has to go to acclimate to even be reincarnated again because of this that has happened. You know, killing someone, it's not something that immediately is wiped out from your karma. That creates a very, very bad karma. Again, this readings are kind of difficult because it is not someone who died from natural causes. This is a young man's soul that passed in a very, very tragic way. So it is very difficult to channel these kind of energies. But Trayvon is in a good place. And my heart and soul goes out to his family, to his mom and dad, to his friends, his family, and everyone that really wanted justice to be served in this case, and for whatever reason it wasn't. And like I said, I felt like there was just a lot of people that were paid out. But blessings and love and light. May you all have a happy, happy New Year, and thank you so much for tuning in.